How's it going? Welcome to the 100th episode of Drive Through Review. Today I'm going to talk about Equilibrion. This is a game from Shady Torby, I think that's how you pronounce it, from Z-Man Games. Not quite available in the United States yet, but I got a friend over the border that got me this copy, and I will name him in the credits. I forgot his name. Let me show you how this works. My first video was Urbion, this guy's first game, so I figured this would be a good one. And I enjoy this game, and let's take a look. Okay, back in the saddle here. This is the components that come with the game. You get these two little pamphlets here for rulebooks. Rulebooks actually really well written. You got your main deck of cards here, and you got all kinds of goodies here, which I'll explain in a second. Then you have here a little deck of city cards, and you are trying to sort of recapture the city from the forces of chaos that are trying to disrupt your dreamland. So if you've ever read the Sandman comic book, your little world is going to chaos and you've got to get it back under control using both good dreams and bad dreams. Now here you can see some of the expansion cards. Now this game comes with two expansions. Now different from Urbion, these expansions are much more, much more intuitive and seems a little bit more integrated with the main game. I've quickly added the expansions into my play of this game, and it really enhances the game, and I think you'll be able to jump right into it. Whereas Urbion, a couple of the expansions were a little bit it felt a little bit tacked on. I did not like them, but this seems to integrate more and doesn't change up the game very structurally, but it does enhance the game. It does sort of advance the game, make it slightly more complex. I would say to play with just the base stuff your first few times in, but then you should be able to quickly add the second and third, add-on. These cards are for two-player. Have not played it two-player, but again, it seems like it's very much more streamlined and a little bit more intuitive. So I would definitely recommend this if you play this with a spouse or something like that. It seems really straightforward and very integrated with the game. Now here you can see the front side of some of the city cards. And you can see it's got the designer's artwork, which is very expressive, sort of impressionistic, I guess, a little abstract. It's pretty nice. For gameplay purposes, what you're going to be looking at are these symbols here. And these are going to tell you the types of dreams that can be played to the left or right of it. So in front of you, you're going to have 4 of these. And I like to lay them out like this. So I have all my good dreams on the top and my bad dreams on the bottom. The instructions say to lay them out vertically, but I plan on playing this on an airplane and on the little tray, so this will actually fit on the tray if you play it like this. So to start the game, you're going to lay out 4 of these, and then you're going to draw 2 off the top for each city that you have. So you'll take a look at them, and if they're pluses, which basically means they're positive dreams, good dreams, you're going to put them on top, and take the next 2. So these are going to go on top of there. And then you see we have some nightmares or bad dreams, and these have a negative value. So I'll put these 2 here. And if I draw these, you can see one of these is a plus and one of them is a minus. So I'm going to put these like so. And then I'm going to draw a hand of 4 cards like so. And then I'm going to start play. So what you're trying to do is get each of these cities in balance and then execute an action to check the balance, and then you'll capture the city card. Now anytime that you capture a city card, you'll draw some out from this deck so that you have 4 in front of you. And if you go all the way through this deck and capture all the city cards, then you win the game. If you go all the way through this main deck of these cards here without capturing all the city cards, then you lose. So on your turn, you basically have 2 different actions that you can take. A, you can play a card to one of these cities. Now if you notice, you have to match the symbol of the city with the symbol on the card. So these little lightning bolts can be played here or on the bottom part if it's the negative cards. Like here's a -1, I could play that there. And then I'm going to draw back up to 4 cards. Very simple. So you always play a positive card on the top or the right or however you've got it set up, and the negative cards will always go on the opposite side. Now you can never have more than 3 cards on each side. Now the next thing I can do is I can discard a card. Now if I discard a card, then I can swap 2 cards on the same side. So if I wanted to swap these 2 negative cards to help me get these 2 cities here in balance, then I could discard a card and do like so. Now the other thing you can discard a card for is I could discard a card and then I can check the cities to see if they're in balance. So if we look at this city here on the left, you can see we've got +1 and +2, that adds up to 3. And then at the bottom we've got -3. So this city will be in balance. So what I'll do is discard both cards on side of the city, discard the city, then I'll draw a new city card. After I've checked for balance and I've drawn any city cards, then I'm going to draw cards off the top of the deck, draw 2, and then add them to where they should go. So lucky me, I got a +1 and a -1, and I draw like this. Now let's say we had the city like this for argument's sake. I've got 2 -1s here, and then I've got a +1 and a +2. The other thing that can happen when you discard a card to establish balance is not only will you resolve any cities that are balanced, but you can take cards on opposite sides that would resolve to 0. So in this case I've got a +1 and a +2, and here I've got a -1 and a -1. So I can, if I want, take and discard the 2 1s, because both of these will add up to 0, thus kind of bringing down the total card count on both sides of the city and making it a little bit easier to resolve completely on a later turn. So once you've either discarded a card to establish balance or added a card to one of the sides, you're going to have 3 cards in your hand, and then you're going to draw up to 4 cards, like I said before. Now the cards you do not want to draw are these chaos cards. You can see these are double-sided with a +5 and a -5. Now you have some choices when you draw one of these chaos cards. The first thing you can do is discard the chaos card, and then you take the top 4 cards off the deck and discard those into the discard pile. If there are any chaos cards inside of there, you've got to resolve that chaos card as well. So that's going to hurt you and burn through this deck quicker. You don't usually want to do that. The other thing you can do is discard this, but then you can choose to discard a balanced city that you haven't resolved yet. So if this city were balanced, then I could discard this chaos card to break the balance, get rid of all the cards on either side of the city, and basically have to start from scratch. Now the thing to keep in mind with that is I cannot discard a card and then declare an empty city as balanced. It has to have at least 1 card on each side. Now the last thing you can do is add this card to one of the sides, because you see it's got a +5 and a -5. Now the thing you have to do is there's no symbol limitation, because you can see this has like all of the symbols sort of built into it, is I have to add it on a side that's already overbalanced. So in this case I've got a +4 and a nothing. So I could put this on as a +5, making that a +9. So it's that much more difficult to balance later. Now I probably wouldn't want to do that because that's, you know, a bigger number to achieve. So I could take it here, flip it to the minus side, and put it on the -2 because this is already weighted negative. So now it's only a -7. It's a little bit easier to build up cards to achieve that. So that's the game at its heart. It's very simple, but what you're going to have to learn is some of these symbols are going to be more weighted towards certain numbers and things like that. And there's only certain kinds of ones that have the clouds on them and things like that. You'll kind of learn sort of the makeup of the deck. One kind of cool thing about this is if you somehow establish balance and all 4 cities are balanced at the same time, then you can capture a bonus city card off the top of the deck. And so that'll help you, get through the deck a little bit quicker. So it's kind of a push your luck aspect. Can I get enough cards out to, place out here legally and hopefully stay away from these chaos cards, or even kind of hopefully use them to my advantage a little bit if I can, and then resolve all the cities at once, burn them all down, and then drop 4 new city cards that we're going to get, refilled. So let's actually look at the cards in the second expansion. It's a little bit more quicker to add to the game, but I probably would add it last, but it's just easier to explain. So you can see this card here is actually double-sided, kind of like the chaos cards. But I can play this, wherever I choose. So it gives me a little bit of flexibility in helping you balance the city. However, it adds 4 more city cards to the deck. Normally you only have 12, but then you add an additional 4 to get through, so that makes it that much harder. But the cities that you add are universal symbols. So there's the 4 different symbols here on either corner. So you can add any card you want to the sides of the cities. So it's a nice fun addition. It adds a little bit of variety to the game, and it makes it slightly more difficult because it adds more cities, but then you've got these other cards too. So now this first expansion has these special power cards, and I really like this. You would think this maybe would diverge the game away from its simplicity, from its quick play, but it really enhances the game. So you've got 80 of these cards here. What you're going to do is shuffle these up and then take 2, throw them out of the game. And then you're going to reveal them one at a time. So I'm going to reveal this, and maybe I'll keep it. And I'm going to reveal another one, I'll keep this one. Maybe reveal another one, keep this one. Let's say I wanted to keep these 3 in the game. And I'll explain what these do in a second. Then I've got to take 2 cards for each of these, so 6 cards. Take them off the top of the deck, and then throw these out of the game. Now if I pulled any chaos cards here, I'd have to shuffle those back in. You can never get rid of those. So you're going to start with a smaller deck, but each of these cards has a special power. And the way that you activate this power is when you discard a card, instead of resolving balance or swapping 2 cards on a side, you can use a power of one of these cards. So there's 8 total of these different powers, and so you can kind of change up your play and sort of work around, and you can kind of sort of cheat the system. They kind of break the rule a little bit, and things that would be automatically bad for you just playing the vanilla game will actually sort of work in your favor a little bit if you can, get to know how to use these powers. So let me go over the powers real quickly, and then I'll wrap up. So this first power lets you move a positive dream anywhere on the board there without actually having to swap. So you can just discard a card and move one without having to swap, and that makes it a little bit easier to kind of juggle what you've got. This is a similar one for the negative dreams. This one here lets you actually just discard. If you discard a card, then you can discard a positive outside of the way. This one is for a negative. This one is if you complete a fully balanced city in one action. Instead of just drawing 1 card off the top, you draw 2 cards. So it's a total of 6 city cards that you can get rid of if you balance the city all at once. This one will let you discard a card and actually resolve a empty city, so that can be kind of nice too. This one lets you discard a card, look at the top 2 cards, put them back in any order. However, if you have the twin of it, or the duplicate, both of these are in play, you can discard 1 card and then look at the top 4 cards and put them back in any order. But you have to draw both of these when you're drawing these at the beginning of the game. Okay, hope you enjoyed the overview. This is better than Onorim. I really liked Onorim. It's a great game to take on the airplane and, play 50 times from here to Indianapolis or wherever you're going. This one is very, very similar, kind of managing this entire deck of cards. But whereas Onorim, everything is kind of up here in your head. You got to do a lot of card counting and things like that. You sort of everything is invisible to you. This is very more visible. Everything is more apparent on the board because you have an actual board and you've got just a lot more out there, and you can really kind of have a better idea of what cards are still left. So as you play through the game, you know which symbols go with which pluses and minuses and which cities you've gone through already and things like that. And it's just a much easier to kind of spatially figure out what's going on. Now the game is probably as difficult as Onorim. It might be a little bit easier because of what I was saying before with the spatial aspect, but it feels like the card counts and things like that are about the same. So I quite like this more. Like I said before, the expansions are much more integrated, and they don't feel as much like expansions where they did in Onorim, but more just like advancements in the complexity of the game to keep it fresh for you. I played probably the base game, say 6 times or so, and probably more than that, and then added the first expansion, played a few times, and then it's like, screw it, they added the 3rd expansion. Now I just play with everything all thrown in together, whereas Onorim, you had like all these different pieces and those cloud cards, whatever those were called, and just a whole lot going on. This still enhances the gameplay while staying really compact, and and it doesn't break the structure and the flow at all, really. Yeah, so this is going to be my airplane game. It's coming out in the States as the time of this video sometime soon. I think it's already like 6 months late in the States, but it's out in Europe and Canada and things like that. So I would recommend picking it up. Even if you're not a solitaire gamer, this is great, like I said, on the airplane and things like that. And the thing that is going to keep it, keep me playing it, throughout the year or so is going to be those power cards that you can add in, because you're not always going to have the same set of power cards, and it's going to kind of keep the game variable every time. So it's a game you can sit down, play in 15 minutes, play a couple of times in an hour, and then you pack it away and it's good to go. So anyway, appreciate it. Thanks.